This is Stars and Scopes with your pal Uma Ruby. Updated every new and full moon with guidance based on planetary transits in the current sky and extra support from tarot. For accuracy, do listen to your rising sign first if you know it, but do feel free to listen to your sun, moon and rising if you'd like the full picture. If you're loving this work and you've got some coins to spare, throw them in the tin over at buymeacoffee.com/Uma Ruby and you can buy me a coffee. Okay, let's drop into it. Hello Scorpio and Scorpio rising, welcome to your reading for the full moon in Sagittarius happening on the 14th of June at 9:52 p.m. if you're using Australian Eastern Standard Time. This is exciting stuff. This is a full moon reprieve away from your first house and the eclipse and everything that the universe was purging from your very essence. Beautiful reprieve. A month later, where are we now? We're at a space to continue to let go, but this time with a little more control and a little more say-so in terms of your money-making potential, your material assets, your talents, and how you can turn a buck. What are you worth? All of those things can really weigh us down if we're feeling anxious about them, and if we're feeling in some way that there's some sort of yardstick or measuring stick that we're not quite standing up to. So the full moon is a perfect time to let go of some of that. Scorpios are really strident and passionate and forward thinking, quite fiery about their ability to turn a buck. So in that way, there's a message for you to sort of look at the bigger picture in some ways. If there are sort of anxieties about that, then to sort of zoom out, realize that you're safe and let some of that back to the moon. The reason that I say this is because there is some potentially difficult energy again with, even though it's a lovely fresh full moon, there is some interesting stuff going on in the sky as well. So I'll talk about that. I'll break it all down for you real quick, and then we'll do some intuitive tarot for some final messages. So the moon is at 23 degrees of Sagittarius right now, right there. And the tarot card that correlates with that exact point is the 10 of Wands. Now this describes being completely exhausted, completely at the end of your tether, and kind of like careworn, as if you sort of can't care anymore. You're feeling maybe exhausted by capitalism. That could be something right there, straight off the bat. It could be the systems that we're all forced to live under and the way that we're expected to produce and expected to accrue and expected to, buy and spend. All of that kind of stuff could be really just weighing you down right now. You could be exhausted by it. Lord knows a lot of us are. But that's one thing to think about. The sun forming that full moon, so the sun's light beaming to the moon. The tarot card for 23 degrees in Gemini is the 10 of Swords. So this is a little more critical, this energy. This does talk about anxiety and panic and grief of the mind. It can talk about depression, and it can talk about feeling that there's nothing left in your tank. Interestingly, it's the Sun in Gemini card. So it's actually a really pertinent card for right now because, the Sun is in Gemini at this particular degree, forming this full moon. So I would like to look at this reading in terms of how we can move from this space and move from this potential anxiety and give it back to the moon as the Sun's doing, by way of being exhausted by capitalism. That's the beginning of the reading. Sun, moon. They're forming a T-square again, which is that fight for supremacy with Neptune this time. And Neptune's in Pisces. I've spoken about Neptune quite a lot this year because they've just been doing great guns. They've been doing a lot for all of us in terms of their kind of magic and sort of, illusionary qualities that are sort of bringing things to sort of manifest and crystallize and bring forward. In a low vibration, though, in a T-square, when it is a fight for visibility, Neptune can be delusion. It can be that sense of Emperor's New Clothes or something like that. So for you, Scorpio, Pisces is in your 5th house of creativity and sexuality, the way that you sort of intimately bond in a loving way with other people. It's children and the cosmic child, the inner child. So if we kind of paint this picture, is there something in your creative world that has some sort of sense of delusion, or you're feeling that there's some, you're criticizing it as delusion, maybe with that 10 of Swords energy from the sun? Is, if you're an artist, I can completely understand why you would be feeling so 10 of Wands right now about your livelihood. I apologize if that's what you're feeling, because it's not fair. And it's because of ineffective systems of governance and of wealth. And there's no delusion about that. That's the truth. The delusion is that your art, your craft, is not worth it. That's maybe something here that I'd like to gently press that point. That's the delusion, that maybe Neptune is sort of dipping into that lower vibration this time and being like, well, what about me? What about my thoughts and feelings? That's where this reading is headed, Scorpio. So at this full moon, I want you to let go of some of that nego self-talk. Your work isn't deluded. You're not deluded for wanting to perform in the way that you create. I don't care what your art is. I don't care if it's not so much, there's so many different ways that this could go. But what I'm feeling and what I'm really sensing is that beaten down 10 of Wands place where you can't light the fire, you can't get that spark happening because you're exhausted, and because you haven't been respected. That's maybe not the right thing to say, but you haven't been considered in all of this chaos that's going around. And fair enough, there's bigger fish to fry right now, sure, absolutely. But the world would be in an even worse state without people making art and people creating pleasure spaces. It really would be even worse than it is now. I mean, we've got all of the monks that are up on the mountaintop praying their hearts out for us, are keeping us in equilibrium. All of the nonnas clutching their rosary beads right now are keeping us in equilibrium. There's so much spirit work that's going on, keeping humanity from going down the gurgler. And I gotta tell you, babe, artists are part of that. And it's a delusion to think that your art isn't worth it. I've said my piece, Scorpio. Thank you for coming. No, I'm kidding. But that's the reading that you're getting this full moon from me to you. So when it comes to what you need to release in terms of your 2nd house, your material possessions, value, money, whatever it is, talents, I want you to release all of that delusion about it not being worth it. You don't have to be an artist by trade as well. You know, this isn't like it's undeniable that there is a creative impulse in you, though, Scorpio. There rarely isn't. But as far as like put it this way, your inner child, the person that you were when you were a kid, is not a delusion. That is a sacred space, and that's a space where healing can begin and continue. So don't throw that baby out with the bathwater, please. That's what I meant to say in this reading. Okay, some intuitive tarot. There's some other aspects in the sky as well, but I think that sort of summed it up, you know? Like, yeah. I won't bother with the other things. I'll tell you what, very quickly. Mars is in Aries. Passion is on your side for this moon. So remember your fire. Remember what stokes your fire. Don't let your passion go. And Saturn is in Aquarius. Normally, it's been quite tricky for us lately, but this time it's in a supportive aspect with the sun. So as far as rules and regulations and the guidebook, the rule book, this is a rule book that you know really well. And Saturn's reminding you of that. This swing and roundabout, this difficulty of life right now. If you're low on money at the moment, babe, I feel you. I'm so sorry. If you're feeling completely uninspired, babe, I feel you. I'm so sorry. All of these spaces are so difficult to contend with, but you know this, and you've been there before, and you know about cyclical time. All right, some tarot, and then I will bid you adieu. Oh, gosh, my voice is getting a little hoarse. I've been yabbering on for hours. All right, some tarot, please, Spirit, just to finish off Scorpio's read. What can you tell me they need to hear right now, please? I've got 2 cards there. I've got the 7 of Swords and the 8 of Swords. Very interesting. Very interesting. We're sort of moving away from that mental cage, but what's being left out? This is Saturn right now. This is 7 of Swords energy. So what are you leaving out, or what is being left out? What is not being given to you in terms of the truth? And how can that benefit, or I'll put it this way, what truth are you leaving out, Scorpio, that could be incorporated into your art, that could earn you some money and could get you back on track to creating and expressing yourself, which is where we need you. That's what that is. Final card. Oh, 2 cards. Okay. Devil. Yeah, so this is not a external force. This is nothing to be frightened of. The devil is in us, and it's repetitive behavior. It's habitual behavior. So what are you engaging in? What is coming up for you? I would suspect some of this stuff and some of this editing of the truth, your truth. So this is coming up again, and I'm being forceful with you. That's the energy in the room right now. I'm going to take it down. I'm going to stop yelling at you. I love you, Scorpio. So this is nothing to be ashamed of as well. We all do it. We all have habits we'd rather not. We all have cycles that we fall back into that we'd rather not. So the trick is to be mindful of it. The trick is to be self-aware enough to be able to see it and go, okay, I see you. I know what you're doing again. How you're feeling. That's the beauty. That's the way to work with the devil card. And then the 8 of Wands, which is forward, direct, fast, affirmative, passionate, fiery energy. I see this for you after this full moon. Once you get off your back and once you let go some of that energy back to Luna, there's going to be some quick moving stuff coming your way, and it's going to be really exciting and really well deserved. I love you, Scorpio. If you'd like to head over to my website, I've just published a whole bunch of readings that are specific to the elementals, and I work with tarot and your birth chart. So I'm really enjoying them so far. They've proven to be quite enlightening. You could also tip me if you'd like at buymeacoffee.com/Uma Ruby, or you can just see me in 2 weeks and I'll give you a reading for the new moon in Cancer, which is a great space to emotionally manifest and call in some really heart-centered, loving energy into our lives. All the very best. I don't know if I said the thing about Spotify and YouTube, but if you'd like to head over to YouTube, you can watch this reading because I am on there feeling my Pride Month fantasy, my Julia Roberts meets Sandra Bullock, bringing it all together. She popped on her face and a little look to give you this reading because you're worth it. Much love to you, and I'll see you in 2 weeks, Scorp. Bye-bye.